The fight for women to just be able to make decisions about our own bodies suffered yet another setback in the last 24 hours. Access to medication abortion is now in jeopardy for millions of women after a ruling from a Trump-appointed judge in Texas. The judge in Texas, his decision suspends the Food and Drug Administration's longtime approval of the abortion pill mifepristone. It's the first pill in the two-step medication abortion. But the judge stayed his own ruling, giving the FDA 7 days to appeal, which means the pill is still available for now. And a plot twist, not long after the Texas decision, another federal judge, but in Washington state, issued his own separate opinion in a case, directly contradicting the federal judge in Texas. Judge Thomas Rice ordered the FDA to keep mifepristone on the market, ruling that the restrictions were, quote, burdensome and unnecessary because the FDA had deemed the drug safe and effective. That decision only applies to 17 states and Washington, D.C. that sued to keep the drug available. The Justice Department acted quickly, saying it would appeal the Texas ruling. So where does that leave the abortion pill right now? Well, joining me now are Fatima Goss-Graves, the president and CEO of the National Women's Law Center, and Anthony Coley, the former chief spokesperson for the Justice Department, and I would argue a very adept legal and political analyst. Fatima, I'm going to start with you because, the FDA, they approved mifepristone over 20 years ago on the market. It's been on the market. The plaintiffs in the case say that 20 years ago, the FDA rushed to make that approval. So what does medication abortion look like now, the access look like now in America?
I'm glad you started with that because Judge Kacsmarik's opinion was sort of a vehicle for misinformation. It was approved in the year 2000. He and I were still in law school at that time, so I just want to, it's been a while. And it's been used by millions, and it is safe and effective, and it has been studied repeatedly over the couple of decades that it has been in use. And more than half of abortions in this country are medication abortion. So that context, I think, is important because if you actually read his opinion, it is rife with sort of right-wing talking points.
Can we talk about the opinion? Because I'm going to put it up on the screen for folks because now the plaintiffs in Texas, they actually sought out this judge. And in the opinion, the judge, Kacsmarik, used words commonly used by anti-abortion activists like unborn human and unborn children and used the word abortionist instead of doctors. Most judges would use the term fetus. What conversations are you involved with right now in order to protect women and just their rights? What is happening?
Right. Well, the first thing I think people should know is that abortion access is still available in this country and medication abortion is still available in this country. I think part of what you're seeing right now is an effort to confuse people on this front. And so we're trying to get that information out. But I also think people have to be very, very clear about what has just happened. If he were to get his way, in a week, we might be in a different place. Now, there is the second opinion that you name from the Washington judge. So now the FDA is in a place where it has two giantly conflicting opinions about what to do. But if Judge Kacsmarik and the right-wing sort of groups that surround him were to have their way, abortion access in this country would be highly restricted, and that is their goal.
It's just really knocking me back. So we've got these two competing opinions, Anthony, and then you've got Democratic lawmakers weighing in. Ron Wyden, a senator, a Democratic senator from Oregon, he released a statement, actually. And in that statement, he said, quote, I believe the Food and Drug Administration has the authority to ignore this ruling, which is why I'm again calling on President Biden and the FDA to do just that. Now, it's one thing to disagree with the ruling, but he's calling for ignoring the ruling. Democratic Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez also went on television on another network and said the same thing. Is this going to happen? Can they do that? Has this ever been done before?
I don't know that we are at that point right now.
Why not?
Or even if, well, right now, what we know for sure is that access is still available. And that's important. We've now said it 3 times. It's important to reiterate that. What I know for sure is I worked at the Justice Department for 2 years, including the last 6 months after the Dobbs decision. I know for a fact that this Justice Department is committed to protecting women's reproductive rights and freedoms. I've seen it firsthand, and what I hope they do and continue to do is to not just defend this lawsuit, but to aggressively bring forth affirmative litigation, as we saw in Idaho about 3 or 4 months ago. That's what the Justice Department needs to do. But we also have a responsibility ourselves, Simone. What we are seeing right now is just not an attack on reproductive freedoms. We are seeing forces on the far right. We saw it in Tennessee trying to shut down legitimate debate.
It's all
we
connected.
see it's all connected. Voting rights, trying to limit access to the ballot box, education in Florida, even trying to restrict the telling of history, as painful and as glorious as it is. So around the country, we need to pay attention to what's happening.
Fatima, you want to
I just think that democracy point is so important. His opinion ignores science, it totally disregards the FDA, and ignores all precedent, right? And so in a country that is a democracy,
right,
where things like the rule of law are that important, we can't just ignore that. And they brought this case in Amarillo, Texas,
right,
where he is, like they
picked this judge.
They didn't just pick this judge. They created an entire entity located in Amarillo, Texas, so that they would be guaranteed to get this judge.
Right.
That's not just forum shopping, right? You're going to this judge because you have a hope that he will disregard science, that he will disregard law, that he will disregard the sort of foundations that this country is built on, and tear a bunch of things down in the process. We all should be concerned about that.
I only have about 20 seconds left, but this, the Justice Department's appeal is going to go to the Fifth Circuit. It's one of the most conservative in the country. What are the prospects there?
So I suspect, and you're the lawyer here, I suspect they'll lose in the Fifth Circuit, and then it'll go to the Supreme Court.
Well, dang, Anthony, I don't trust the Supreme Court on this one.
Am I right?
Don't forget that there's a competing ruling out of Washington. The Supreme Court is going to have to resolve this ultimately.
Right.
That is where it will go.
Well, I don't think that gives people lots of hope in America, but we will be watching. Fatima Gosgraves, thank you very much for coming in today with your good Easter jacket. Anthony, you are staying with me because we have